31.9 million retirement accounts in this country are sitting somewhere their owner has forgotten about. That is not a guess. It is a real count, published by a company called Capitalize in September of 2025. The money inside those accounts adds up to $2.13 trillion. Here is the strange part. Almost nobody in that group thinks of themselves as a person who lost a retirement account. They think of themselves as a person who changed jobs a few times. That gap is what this whole video is about. There are 5 things the research keeps finding over and over in the data on how Americans save for retirement. All 5 are common, all 5 are expensive, and the people doing them are mostly not aware there is anything to notice. None of it is exotic. No scam, no villain, no complicated product. Just 5 quiet gaps that turn up in study after study in samples of hundreds of thousands of real workers. So why does nobody catch them? Because not one of the 5 feels like a decision. That thread runs through everything here. I want to come back to it at the end, because once you see it, the whole list rearranges itself. A decision has a moment. You sit down, you weigh 2 things, you pick one, and you remember doing it. Every item on this list happens without that moment. Some of them happen while somebody is doing what looks like the responsible thing. There is a famous piece of research behind that idea, published in the Quarterly Journal of Economics in 2001, and it comes back in item 3. By the end, you will know which single force the researchers say is doing most of the work here. It is not discipline, it is not income. Let us start with the one carrying the biggest number. Number 1 is the account left behind at an old job. Back to that Capitalize analysis. As of July 2025, they count 31.9 million forgotten 401k accounts, holding $2.13 trillion between them. The average balance inside one of those accounts is $66,691. Sit with that figure for a second. Not $66. 66,000. These are not accounts that vanished. They are still sitting with a former employer's plan provider under a real name and a real social security number. The person who earned the money has simply moved on 2 or 3 jobs since. Now here is the part almost nobody knows. Under Section 304 of the Secure 2.0 Act, a plan can push a small balance out on its own. That applies to distributions made after December of 2023. The old ceiling was $5,000. It is now $7,000. That means no consent required. Under $1,000, the plan can simply cut a check. Between $1,000 and $7,000, it has to be rolled into an individual retirement account. That account is opened in a person's name, at a provider they have never heard of, so the money moves, an account gets created somewhere, and the mail goes to an address from 2 jobs ago. Capitalize projects another 4.2 million accounts joined the forgotten pile during 2025 alone. That is not carelessness. That is a filing system with nobody assigned to it. Number 2 happens at the exact same moment, and it is the opposite problem. In 2023, Harvard Business Review published findings from 3 researchers, Yanwen Wang, Muxin Zhai, and John Lynch. They studied 162,360 people who left jobs at 28 American companies. 41.4% of them cashed out at least part of their 401k on the way out the door. And of that group, nearly 90% did not take part of it. They took all of it down to 0. Put those 2 numbers side by side. 4 in 10 people cash out. Nearly 9 in 10 of those empty the account completely. The researchers have a name for the category. They call it pre-retirement leakage, and it covers cashing out at separation, withdrawing while still employed, and defaulting on a loan taken against the plan. And it makes a certain kind of sense in the moment. Somebody leaves a job with $11,000 in the plan. There is paperwork in front of them, a box to tick, and a gap before the next paycheck lands. $11,000 does not feel like a retirement. It feels like a cushion. That is the trade nobody sees at the time. The balance was never the valuable part. The 30 years in front of it was the valuable part. Number 3 is the one I find hardest to argue with, because the person it happens to did everything right. This is the default contribution rate. In 2001, 2 researchers, Brigitte Madrian and Dennis Shea, published a paper in the Quarterly Journal of Economics with a title that gives away the finding. They called it The Power of Suggestion. They studied a company that switched over to automatic enrollment. Instead of asking people to sign themselves up, it signed everybody up by default at 3% of pay into a default fund. Participation jumped. That part worked exactly as intended, but watch what people did next. Around 75% of the automatically enrolled were still contributing at exactly that 3% default. Around 80% were still sitting in the default fund. Roughly 61% had changed nothing at all. Madrian and Shea's own reading is worth hearing. They put it down partly to plain inertia and partly to something sharper. Employees read the default as advice. If the company printed 3% on the form, 3% must be roughly right. Nobody chose 3%. Somebody printed it. And this one is genuinely getting better, which is worth saying plainly. Vanguard's How America Saved report for 2025 shows automatic enrollment growing from 10% of plans in 2006 to 61% in 2024. 30% of plans now start people at 6% or higher. The average contribution rate reached an all-time high of 7.7%. A record 45% of savers raised their own rate inside a single year, mostly through automatic escalation. So the defaults improved and behavior moved with them, which rather makes the point. The default was doing the deciding the whole time. Number 4 sounds impossible until you see who it happens to. In May of 2015, a firm called Financial Engines went through the records of 4.4 million people at 553 companies. They were looking for one thing: how many workers put in too little to collect their employer's full matching contribution. The answer was 1 in 4. 25% were leaving part of the match uncollected. Across the whole group, the study put the total at $24 billion a year. For one person missing out, the typical shortfall was $1,336 a year. About 2.4% of their income. Financial Engines projected that at up to $42,855 over 20 years, once compounding is counted. That study is from 2015, so those dollar figures belong to 2015. The pattern inside it is the part that lasts. The people missing the match were not the careless ones. 42% of participants earning under $40,000 a year missed part of it. Among people earning over $100,000, it was 10%. Read that again. The match is hardest to reach for the people it would help most. It is not a knowledge gap. When there is nothing spare in the paycheck, a matched contribution and an unmatched one cost exactly the same today. Number 5 never shows up as an event at all. No form, no email, no moment. The Department of Labor publishes a booklet called A Look at 401k Plan Fees. Inside it there is a worked example, and it is the government doing the arithmetic here, not a fund company. Take a $25,000 balance. Leave it alone for 35 years. Assume 7% average returns. At 0.5% in annual fees, it grows to $227,000. At 1.5%, the same money, the same returns, the same 35 years, grows to $163,000. 1 percentage point. $64,000. The department's own summary of that gap is that a 1% difference in fees reduces the account balance at retirement by 28%. And notice what is missing from that story. Nobody made a bad call. There was no panic selling, no crash, no terrible year. The fee simply came out quietly on schedule for 35 years. That is the catch with this one. A cost you never watch being subtracted is a cost you never think to compare. So, back to the promise. Which single force is doing most of the work? Line all 5 up and something obvious appears. The account stays behind because leaving it there takes no action at all. The cash out happens because the check is the easy box on the form. 3% was printed on a page by somebody else. The match goes unclaimed by the people with the least room to reach it. And the fee comes out whether or not anyone ever looks. Not one of those 5 is a person deciding badly. Every one of them is what happens when nobody decides at all. And the system already has an answer written down for that. Which is exactly what Madrian and Shea found back in 2001, and the reason their paper carries the title it does. The default wins. It wins against good intentions, and it wins against knowing better. I am not going to hand out a number to aim at, or tell anybody what to do with their own retirement account. I am not qualified to, and it would not be honest. The useful thing here is smaller than advice anyway. 4 of those 5 are settings. And a setting is just a thing somebody wrote down. Somebody always chose. The only real question is who. So here is what I want to know from you. Out of the 5, which one surprised you most? I would bet the answer's split. And I would bet the fee one is quieter than it deserves to be. Tell me in the comments.